discuss on the investment opportunities in AP's petrochemical sector. Moderating this session will be Mr. Satish Lakkaraju, the Senior Vice President of VSRK. A huge round of applause to Satish sir. Heartiest welcome to you, sir. And can we call upon the esteemed panelists, Ms. Kavita Rajesh Garu, the President, Hyderabad Management Association, HMA. Heartiest welcome to you, Kavita madam. Huge round of applause. And may I call upon Mr. Tarun Kumar Garu, the General Manager of BPCL. Heartiest welcome, sir. A huge round of applause for the next eminent panelist, Mr. K. Satyanarayana, the Technical Head, Mega Engineering and Infrastructure Limited, MEIL. Heartiest welcome, sir. And can we call upon Professor VSRK Prasad, the Director, Indian Institute of Petroleum and Energy, IIP. I'm sure he has a lot of interesting points coming from the field of Indian Institute of Petroleum and Energy to give away. Yes, the panel will be discussing on the investment opportunities in AP's petrochemical corridor. This is a very crucial subject, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. This session will, moderator sir, this session will last for 60 minutes exactly. 2:30 we all should break for lunch. Sorry, 1:30 we'll all break for lunch, sir. Over to you.
Thank you. You can be rest assured we'll do it in 59 minutes. That's how the logisticians perform. It's a very good afternoon and a warm Vizag today. Happy to be back in Vizag after almost a long time, because 1989 I had my investment here in this state, and I was asked to moderate this session on a subject which is not easy to moderate, for a reason that the product petrochemical has a large investment to make. In general, it's not like a startup where we could have discussed it in a different context and we would have a lot of younger people. The very fact that we've got senior people on the dais goes to tell you the seriousness of the subject, because petrochemicals is one industry which is in discussion day in and day out in the country. The governments stand and don't stand based on your petrol prices today. Our life revolves around petrol. So what I'll do is that I've got some very interesting questions that have been lined up for our fellow panelists. I will request, starting with Kavita Rajesh, to introduce herself and give a little background in 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'll go on to Tarun, and then I'll come into Mr. Prasad, and then Mr. Satyanarayana in that sequence. So Kavita, if you can start with what you do and what your organization does, and then I'll come to the technical questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Satish. I never thought that women are given the first preference to speak around, so I thought it would be the last. So you made a change. So thank you for that, and a very good afternoon to one and all here. It's my privilege, and I thank Hans India, Sharma Garu, I know him very well, and we stayed together, and even Shrujana, who has pulled me with a gunshot, said, you have to come. I said I couldn't refuse coming here and seeing a very vibrant team here working together and knowing and networking and all. Yesterday we had a good interaction with most of them where we could take home a valuable suggestions and a networking platform. Coming to me, I'm a law graduate and I'm part of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women program from ISB, and also have been invited by the US federal government for a leadership program called as Volvis. And apart from that, I've attended TANA and also attended the World Economic Forum in Davos in 2019. It was interesting to know when women lead what happens across the globe. So I could see the change across. So I'm heading Hyderabad Management Association, probably the 3rd woman president in 57 years of the organization, where we would break the ceiling, and it is happening. So we can see the gender diversity happening in a big way. And also representing ELIP, I'm the secretary for the ILA Industrial Park at Hyderabad, where we have 220 SMEs working right from chips. We manufacture from chips to microchips. So if you have seen the black fungus drug, which was in dirt during the COVID time, and the remedy sphere was manufactured at ELIP. So those were the key factors, and we have very niche products. So I'm a paint manufacturer, where I'm manufacturing paints into decorative, industrial, and specialized. My paints are used by ISRO. As I said, Mega Industry is also here. I was talking to Satyanarayana, you should give an opportunity for women entrepreneurs as a purchase preference. So this is what is happening. The CC camera poles across the Hyderabad when you see. The silver paint is from my company where we specialize that product. We tailor-made it for L&T. When a small entrepreneur like me can do, why not the others? So coming to ABWCI, I'm as a state president for Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. It's an association where it gives an opportunity for women, Association of Women in Business, Commerce and Industry, where it's a virtual platform connecting global women across, so right from institutions to working professionals to venture capitals and all, and no cost involved. It is just
Now, having said that, my name is Tarun Kumar and I represent Bharat Petroleum, whom all of us associate either in the midstream or downstream. And my career is span a long 25 years, basically into LPG, making sure that was the era when a lot of transition has happened. Now nobody even talks about when he's going to get his LPG cylinder. So why I'm giving you this background is because our company has made an important transition from crude to oil. We are now got into a forward integration where we have now planned to move from crude to chemicals, and we are the latest entrant into the petrochemical market. Some people can say that it is late, but it is not. It is not that late because the Indian petrochemical journey has just started. So we have made our advent by having our first petrochemical plant at Kochi, which is basically dedicated to the nation by the Honorable Prime Minister. Came at a capex of in excess of 6,000 crores, can replace the imports fully, and has the capability of saving 4,000 crore rupees of important foreign exchange for the country. We are into the niche segment, although the industry has already seen some of the petrochemical giants were already operating in the country, whether it is Reliance or Indian Oil, but they are more towards the commodity. We have come into a segment which is primarily your acrylic acid, oxo alcohols, or the esters of butyl and 2-EHA, which is considered to be the niche as of now, and the country is actually importing everything except for some of the oxo alcohols are being produced by one of the suppliers who is stationed in Vizag. But yes, a very fascinating journey, and as we are going along, we are finding it's very, very fascinating and a lot of dimensions which are emerging out.
Thank you, Tarun. Maybe Professor, you want to start and yeah.
So I will take the lead from the word used by Mr. Ravi Kishore just before this session started. Nothing is waste. So really, that's the best point where we have to realize, particularly nowadays, the major topic is with reference to the plastic ban, don't make use of plastic, all these things. In fact, even if you make use of knife in the kitchen, if it cuts the finger, if you say knife is to be banned because it cuts the fingers, we cannot make use of any food preparation and other things. So in the same way, it is not the problem with the plastic, but it is the problem with the disposal. So if you take the entrepreneurs probably can definitely choose this type of collection of the plastic and reutilization, recycling, because it has now, even the worst waste of the plastic has three major applications. Utilization in combustion operations of the cement kilns, utilization in road laying, and utilization in recovery of the diesel oil from the plastic. And number of the people are successful, and even IAP, Indian Institute of Petroleum at Dehradun, the research organization, could prove that 80 kg of oil could be extracted from 100 kg of the waste plastic material. They were successful in pilot plant, and even manufacturing the scale up also it has been on the trial. But already road laying is already proven. In UK there had been 2,000 kilometers of road that had been laid, and in the similar way in other countries, even in our country also now it is being implemented. And in the cement kiln combustion operations also it is highly useful because its calorific value is almost 35 megajoules per kg of the material. So when such properties of the plastic are there, if you, instead of making use, disposal is done rationally, if you collect all the material and go with the establishment of the infrastructure such a way that you can get the degrading and also utilization in the things. Particularly very recently one entrepreneur had come, Mr. Rajesh Reddy, and he informed me that he is trying with a purified diesel extractor, where he claims, I don't know, I didn't check, but he says that he is getting 95 kg of the oil from 100 kg of the plastic material, and it can be used even it can be established even on the ships in the seas, where he can extract the plastic material which has been dumped in the seas and get instantaneous oil. That's what he says. Of course, based on the reliability of that, but there is a scope definitely on the land, and when you don't dispose it off as you like, probably it is the best utilization of the waste. So we can have a lot of discussion on this, but because the time is limited, I will stop it here. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll go to Mr. Satyanarayana and then come back to the questions. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Satyanarayana. I am basically an upstream man, spending about more than 33 years with ONGC in different capacities. During the process, I happened to be CEO of one of the petrochemical company, product by ONGC, GAIL and GSPC, Gujarat State Public Sector. So, since I was involved in that project for about more than 4 years to put that plant in operation, it has made me to sit here in this August gathering today. And the petrochemical sector, I appreciate the Hands India for taking up this subject for discussion, because it's very important sector, it's a growing sector, and it is contributing a lot to the Indian economy. Not only now, it is going to happen in future because of certain reasons. In every industry, as we have certain advantages, there will be always certain concerns. So we need to understand the concerns, find out the solutions, and move forward. And this is such a sector. At the moment, it has reached to the each and every individual in the world in one way or other way. So at this point of time, and making more and more plants and making the products sufficient for the people and making the lives of the people comfortable is very important. So that's why I'm telling this discussion on this subject is very important. We are going to do it in deep. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Satyanarayana Garu. So I'll quickly jump into the subject for a reason is that, like what my fellow panelists have said, our lives would have been very different if we never had a byproduct or a product of not coming out like a petrochemical product today, because it's linked to everything. But it's just that we remember the petroleum for a larger part of it, but we don't remember the byproducts and the rest of them. So I think I'll start with Kavita, given that you are in a paint industry manufacturing, and our lives are painted with full of colors, because when I go to other parts of the world, I don't get to see so many colors. The true fact is the Indian woman itself wears so much of colors in our life that I never see that in the Europe or the rest of them. So paint, dyes, all these are important subjects. But your challenges are also plenty. It's not so easy that you prepare a paint. The paint industry is evolved. It's probably growing at a 40% year on year CAGR, which is exciting. But how do you face this TiO2 deficit that you currently face in the industry would be my first question to you. And I'll come to the next part of it in the next question.
So very interesting question, because TiO2 is the basic product which is needed. The titanium dioxide and titanium anatase and rutile, which is used in paints. It is an essential product for coverage, which is basically used as coverage in the paint. As we were talking about the petroleum products, the day starts with the petrol, because you can't see a moment where they have to factory also you need petrol, you have to manufacture paints, you need the petroleum products. We buy xylene, we buy ethanol, we buy ethanol, everything is related to petroleum. It's quite a volatile industry. Again. So as you said, there is a huge deficit, because most 15 to 20% of our material comes from China. So the consistency is not consistent, because the challenge we depend on China product, like I said, they're not very good in quality. But still because the competition is so high, we have to be dependent. But there are other countries which we are supplying superior titanium dioxide. This is Australia, European countries like Australia is one, and we also get it from Spain and Germany and all. So we have the best of the qualities, but we are not able to use those qualities because they are high quality and the small SMEs cannot afford buying high quality. So we back a lot on China on these products. So China does are close. So essentially, because what happens, the price consistency of the product is not maintained. It's because of non-availability of raw material in the vendors. So this is one of the prices where we find it very difficult. So but once the European countries start supplying vendors, when we can also see the cost of production of the product as such. So because this is the primary product in paints which is used. So the deficit is there, definitely there is a deficit, but this can be over supply and demand, I can just say. More supplies, definitely you will see the demand reduces and the price consistency is maintained. And one of the key factors why paints are growing, increasing in the cost is one of the factors that. Because the market is dependent on the petroleum products. It's a volatile industry. As you see, the consistency is not maintained in petrol, but unfortunately, SMEs are not able to maintain the price consistency. We sign a contract with the big companies, okay, fine, but we are suffering. We are not able to give that price, and we are not able to. And you see, many of the SMEs are getting close because that's the reason.
No, I think you rightly pointed out like what we have, the API challenges in the market. And the way China is getting into a lockdown because of the current scenario, the situation is only going to deteriorate, but it's not going to see, because unfortunately the dependency on China continues to be there under the, even if the government is talking about Make in India. So I'll come to a Make in India company like BPCL, which truly is a public sector and which has been in there. What would you see the bottlenecks and challenges in the petrochemical industry? Because she spoke about the raw material coming in or the deficit sort of it happening it. One is the government initiatives, and if you have to put infrastructure in this country and you really scale it up, it's going to take 5-10 years, I would guess, by the time you get the environmental clearance in Rotterdam. But someone like you who's already established, what are your challenges to really come into the, this industry?
Talking about some of the challenges is, one is the biggest challenge is with respect to the feed. What we are saying is the transformation from crude to chemical is basically a transition phase. India is in a transition phase, and your transportation fuel demands are going to be subdued because of the intervention from electrical and CNG on immediate basis which are coming. So you can expect a lot of feed which is getting available to the Indian naphtha crackers, which ultimately goes as one of the important fields. But at the same time, in India, the Indian concept is that all whatever petrochemical units have come, they come in an integrated way, which is, I mean, as part and parcel of the refinery, it becomes easier for them to get to feed. So for an independent feed cracker to sustain in the country, it becomes very, very difficult to have an assurance on consistent feed. So that is one challenge which the entrepreneurs have to overcome. There are other techniques also to do some can elaborate more on that, feed-based propane dehydration, some of the other means alternates by which you can have some of the feedstock, and then if you have very important majority of the things are being taken care, because other end user industry will come up fast because their capacities are much low compared to the naphtha crackers. And the second challenge is biggest, which is also a biggest challenge, is that in US and all are able to capitalize more because they are cracking gas, which is almost 1/4 of the cost of the crude in the naphtha. So they are able to do that, but in India, the CNG for petrochemicals, sector is not required, but other sectors are which are required. Otherwise, we have got 50% import dependence on CNG. So this is, I suppose, one of the biggest challenges. The second challenge which comes to my mind is the trade and tariff policy which we have. We have got so many FTAs, and these countries becomes easier. They have easy access to raw material than India is able to. So, and some of the duty inversion cases also are coming. The duty on the finished product is making it become completely, wrong for the person who wanted to get into the.
Such time it is not coming, you have to go in a JV model, because internationally, for leaving about the commodity petchem, the specialty petchem, the technologies are close guarded, and people start commanding a lot of control over it and this challenge which we also faced. And the petrochemical industry, one more challenge which comes is the market. Market is fragmented, and the typical size is 90 days cash cycle on which they operate. So credit cycle which they operate. So this is another challenge which we see as a new entrant in the field of petrochemicals.
And I'll come back to you on that. I think the challenges that you have probably listed are the industry challenges. Some are common, some are specific to sort of it. So what I'll do is I'll come to Mr. Mr. Prasad for a simple reason is that you spoke in the initial stage itself that nothing is a waste and it's sort of a situation. And this industry, we need this industry surely. But does the government is talking about the environment, we have other speakers who spoke in the morning of sustainability and the rest of them. Now you need this product, you said without plastic we can't survive. So how do you think and better ecosystem can be put? Because this industry is required and we can't say you have to shut it down. Probably your thoughts on it to, see how then I'll come into Mr. Satyanarayana to further take up what needs to be done.
As you rightly said, we cannot definitely ask the industry to be closed down because we cannot go again into forests and live with leaves and fruits. Definitely not the time. But at the same time, we cannot also sacrifice the earth by irrationally making use of all the resources and making the next generation to be totally in trouble without any future for them and for the future earth to survive. So there must be optimization. The acts are now being made by the various sectors to see that the industry survives, at the same time environment also survives. So sustainable growth, that is generally it is being made. Now there is a technology that had been developed so far, that from every waste, so far the wastes were neglected because they are not interested in that waste, it is not economical to them. Now with the waste also giving some wealth, no one is rejecting the waste. That's how you are collecting the useful material from that waste, so-called waste material, and again reusing it, by which the ads are favorable for them to make use of it, and there is a special concessions also given for such things. So can be categorized like hazardous waste and other waste materials. Other waste materials anyway, they can be comfortably being used in various other things. Particularly with reference to hazardous waste, the technology has developed to even get each individual minute components of those things economically. Though may not be as economical as we think commercially, but when you make use of when you consider the human hours loss, work hours loss, human health loss, and life loss, definitely it will be more economical to extract even minute amounts of those things. That's how you have to check it, and then when you go into the reutilization, recycling, and recovery, there will be energy optimization also in that recovery path. And when you are going with recycling, you are conserving lot of energy compared to the fresh product that is being used from the raw material, basic raw material. That is another advantage, hidden advantage. That's why it is environment friendly, technologies are possible, and in the future everyone has to go with environmental consciousness essentially.
So I think you put it rightly, is that we all need to be environmentally conscious, surely. We need the next generation who are sitting here to understand that they have a future here to live, and they can make this place a better place to live. So I'll now come to Satyanarayana Garu, because you have a vast experience in this industry, because you've done the setup of the ONGC part of it. But I think this conference is looking at what can you do in AP as a potential really in the petrochemical industry, and the PCPIR concept that we wanted to talk about. Probably if you can throw light, now that we have the technology in place, the government gives the land, then what's stopping us to get something into this state?
As I already told you in my opening remarks, the industry is very important, the sector is very important, and it is also very encouraging. If you see the results, how the petrochemical sector has grown from 70s to till date, there is a consistent growth, and the same consistency we are going to see in the coming days also. So there is an encouragement from every part. So as to encourage more and more entrepreneurs and also to get more investments, the government has come up with a concept called the PCPIR. And this PCPIR, Petroleum, Chemicals and Petrochemicals Investment Region. And the very purpose of bringing this policy is to cluster not only the anchor tenant, to cluster not only the refinery, to cluster not only the petrochemical cracker, but also the downstream sectors, a small scale industry, which are required to be set up in the same place, so that, as Mr. Prasad has just pointed out, there should be an assurance to the small scale industry about the feedstock. In PCPIR, the concept is they give a huge space of land and they set up one of the major industry, either it may be a refinery or a petrochemical complex, which can give the feedstock to the polymers to the downstream sector. All those things are going to happen in the same place. And apart from that, there is a residential area, non-residential area, infrastructure facilities like roads, water, and other common facilities which are required for the industry. And with that concept, the government wanted to encourage the entrepreneurs to join in that PCPIR group and start their industry. And they expected very good results and huge employment and also huge investments from the public. Initially, to start with, 4 PCPIRs were started. One is very well in the Visakhapatnam itself. And the other one is the Dahej, Gujarat, and the Kadalur in Tamil Nadu, and Paradeep in Odisha. Unfortunately, whatever may be the reason, other than Dahej PCPIR, none of them have taken up properly. And reasons may be huge, but this is not the forum to discuss. But the concept is very good. And coming to Andhra Pradesh, and if you see the really how the industry has come up, the petrochemical industry has come up, more than 70% of the capacity, present capacity, is located in the west coast. And Gujarat, like Andhra Pradesh, it has got about more than 1,000 kilometers of the coastline. And the same is the case with Andhra Pradesh. Right from Srikakulam to Nellore, and we have about more than 900 kilometers of the coastline. And we have the operating and non-operating ports. At the moment, about more than 5 or 6 ports are operating, and so many more ports are coming up in future. And this entire coast is well connected with road and rail. We have about more than 3,000 kilometers of rail connectivity. And Andhra Pradesh is well equipped with the air connectivity also. So whatever is the the facilities required, the infrastructure required for the petrochemical industry to start with is available in Andhra Pradesh. Keeping all these things aside, government is also very proactive. Not only the government of India, the central government, but the state governments also will have to play a lot of role in bringing up this sector. But in that regard, now the government of Andhra Pradesh, with their new industrial policy, they are also encouraging this sector. But in between, some attempts were made to bring this industry in the coastline of in between Kakinada and Visakhapatnam. Unfortunately, that has not taken the shape. It is very ideal place, very important state, and I can say it is a right place comparing to Gujarat to set up this petrochemical sector in Andhra Pradesh. And the other part with regard to the PCPIRs, I understand recently the government of India has modified the PCPIR policy. In earlier they used to give about 250 acres of land for each PCPIR. Now I understand that has been reduced to 50 or something. And reason may be because in big scale it is not working out. And the second thing is how the PCPIR has made to work is when you set up a PCPIR, all the stakeholders are to be fixed in the beginning. So who are going to be the set up the refinery, and who are going to set up the polymer units and the end product users, and we have to tie up all these people and then start the activity. But unfortunately that is not happening. And even in the coming days, if you have wanted to go with this concept of PCPIR, I feel we need to bring lot of changes to make it to work.
No, I think you touched upon very important aspect. One, what you touched upon is the coastline of Andhra Pradesh. Gujarat has 1,974 precisely is what Andhra has. Good or bad, we have not utilized the coastline to the extent we should have utilized. The top 3 ports in the country. Vizag used to be one of the largest ports for bulk when we started historically. We've lost that advantage now. Kandla, Pipavav and Mundra have become ports. From nowhere they became giant. Even as of today, 21 vessels are waiting to be berthed in Kandla for bulk, whereas we don't have a situation of that kind really in some parts of the southern coast. Also, in some of the points that you've touched base, I think the PM Gati Shakti program now is addressing some of those issues, because I'm a part of the PM Gati Shakti program and I know that 7 or 8 ministries together will work. So PCPR should technically work much better given that what you have been speaking. So I would say you've given some great insights. So I'll quickly go to Kavita, because she has multiple caps on her head. One is being an entrepreneur herself, being on various associations. People often say that women are not given the right opportunities in organization, women empowerment does not happen. I'm probably a little, confused for a reason is women are more intelligent than men surely, because they do multitasking undoubtedly. They can handle a kid, they can handle milk, they can handle the husband, they can handle home finances sort of it. So what is that you think in India that women can participate in these type of your industry? Because your industry is also male dominated. Logistics again is a male dominated industry, is a mindset that I used to have. But my organization used to have 80% women and I used to be a minority there. So maybe you want to throw some light on that aspect.
Thank you, Mr. Satish, and it is well said. And as I said, to talk, I take pride in saying probably I'm the only woman entrepreneur in both the states of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana who is 100% stake in the paint industry in the company what I'm having. So that is, if you just see very few women who have come because it's a men-dominated area and it is not really supportive, as you said. When I took up a paint industry, all said, are you crazy to get into the men's domain? Then I said, okay, I took it as a challenge. Let me see what is in it. So that is where today where I stand. So because you need to be tough and take tough decisions and all. And also the atmosphere around you has to be conducive. See, one is handholding women. See, because as a woman, when I said, the policies were so difficult and I was surprised to get a small place for a woman SME to get into manufacturing of paints. I didn't find a place for myself. So when I went to ELIP, so this is where the women across are there. You need to have organizations to strengthen the entrepreneur journey also. So we have the self-sustained industrial parks. Today we are talking about made in India and all that. This incubation happened about 25 years, but today the government is talking quite high about Atal incubators and all that. But we did much before, but nobody recognized. So you need to be recognized, you need to talk about yourself, and also a conducive atmosphere. Today, when I have to go, those days, I didn't have a place to approach big companies like public sector undertakings and all. They see your infrastructure, they see your R&D and all. It was very difficult. As I said, it's a man's domain. Today, women are also coming forward to take up these kind of industries which are challenging. And it is good because at a national level also, women make a representation. And having, I think Telangana, I can say Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Thank you. Today, Andhra Pradesh is also giving equal opportunities. We have industrial parks in Vijayawada and Nuna, where again 260 SMEs are there. In Telangana, about 225 SMEs, which is giving an employment to about 8,000 people in 130 acres industrial parks. So more SMEs, more employment, and you can also give, you can solve the problem of employment also. Entrepreneur journey is today is good because lots of seed capital is given. The venture capitals are also looking at investing into the small SMEs, women-owned SMEs today. So this is where we can see that things are moving forward. And I say we should have a conducive atmosphere and handhold, and the ecosystem has to support. We need to have a marketplace for women SMEs to manufacture, and purchase preference. It's all on the paper, but where is it really implemented? Whether it is the big companies say the purchase preference of 5% is given to women SMEs, but it is not really happening. We need to fight for that. So that change has to happen in a larger scale. And to tell, I want to make an open statement in this forum saying that when we met Krish Iyer from Walmart, he has made a public statement saying women manufactured SME products are much high in quality. So this is a big hand of applause for women SMEs. So that is where you can see that women manufacture good qualitative products. Yeah.
No, I'll fully endorse what you're saying, but I can tell you all one thing, is that today in the industry where I come, if I ask for women resumes, one I don't get. So one of the requests to people around in this hall is that companies like us are happy to empower women, engage women, and give them a safe working place. We've always believed in the past, but not now, that women should come after sunrise and go before sunset. But now if we tell that to the women, they'll say, you get out of this office. So I'm going to change my statement and clearly tell you all that if women interested to come into logistics industry, there is an acute shortage of people first, because that is the last industry that people want to come. So I think that is the request that I have. Since you represent a thing, we are happy to hire at any state. In the last 2 days, I've tried to hire a woman here in Vizag, but I found men, so I've issued the offer letters. So good to know that you have these challenges. But I think it's a great opportunity. So I'll come
Thank you,
to
Mr.
Tarun
Satish.
quickly because the public sectors are the safest place for women. And I met the public sector's head of HPCL for logistics. She's a woman. So what is that in HPCL or BPCL or Bharat Heavy Electricals that women see safer than in some other organization?
We have provided a model for the industry to emulate. I mean, I'm making this a statement. You have to come and see the way we take care of our all people, whether it is, and there is no bias in this sense. What is the need? As per the need, the subject is dealt, and not about the gender. This much I can say.
Oh, great. No, I think it's always good that historically we have learned from the public sectors. The private sector came in much later. Parents only work for public sectors. And we are an output of the public sector. So I know how it really functions. So glad to know that. So I'll quickly go to Mr. Prasad for a quick question on what is this net zero that we are all talking about now? Because it's a subject that people talk about it. How many of us understand it is a different thing. Maybe you should really throw for petrochemical industry the net zero concept, how important it is.
Actually, net zero waste means the concept that the total resource material which you have brought out is to be totally fully utilized. What happens is, in say 20th century, middle of the 20th century, almost 70% of the raw material was wasted, and only the easiest operation that is possible and economically feasible used to be taken up. And for example, the petrol used to get all the zinc or other particles and everything, and it used to cost only 2 rupees 50 paise at that time per liter. But with purification of the material, what happened is it cost about 4 rupees or 2.5, 3 rupees, not much of the more high, probably some 10 to 20% higher than what it was. Now with the Euro 5, Euro 7, like that, the various 10, it is coming up. So now the purification is much more. The purification is much more means you are making use of the total raw material, and you are also making use of the byproducts of the material. So finally, when you are seeing the environment, the impact on the environment is as good as equivalent to zero. For example, water. Say dairy industry is there. In California, there is a lot of scarcity in water. So they are making use of the total utilization in such a way, the recycling of water is done in such a way, the wastewater which is treated to the most purity is again used in mixing up with the milk, and they are using it. The same design we also could give it to VSRK dairy, for example, here in locally, but still here, I mean, psychologically, we are not able to use that water to mix into the milk because the competitors will say, oh, they are using the drain water into the milk, don't use of it. So it will be, probably product will not go well. But the way I'm stating this is the technology has come to such a state that there is no waste that is to go out. So practically, utilization of the raw material to make use of each of its component, which is also at 1% or 0.05% of its original existence, makes it to come to the perfect utilization on one hand and no load on the environment. So that's how we can go to zero, and our country is making efforts to implement it. And one example we can give is in Ganges, where you have 5 kilometers of the both sides. Now it cannot be, any waste cannot be discharged, the latest act. So naturally now the Ganges, which had been highly sacred, had been totally been in such a way that it is more than a drainage canal, a drainage river. So now with this step that had been implemented, the people who are going to Varanasi, they could see a lot of change in the water of the Ganges also. So naturally, when you take all the steps to protect the environment, there are always methods to get all the zero waste.
No, absolutely. For a very good reason that before I get into Satyanarayana Garu, there are two technologies which inspired me. One, when I looked at Israel and I was talking to them, they put a mesh, and from the mesh they collect water, and then it's collected, and in the evening they get that tip. Two is, every time I went to Middle East, what inspired me is that they don't have rivers like what we have, and we are struggling, and they are able to resalinate and redo the whole thing, and they're still going to survive sort of it. I think when you put people under pressure, you find a solution, because like what COVID has done is the virtual meetings happened. It's taught us a better and efficient way not to be work from home. I'll quickly come to Satyanarayana Garu for a reason is that you've been in the petrochemical industry for a substantial period. The challenges in the past were much higher. Technology has started to come in now, sort of it. The pharma industry, for example, you emanate a lot of bad smell. You can't live in those areas. From where Kavita comes in, where Patancheru and Miapur areas in Hyderabad really stink at one point of time. But today when I go, the smell has actually reduced because there's sort of it. Is there anything that of that kind that you have faced in the past, and now better technology has come to address these type of issues, to recycle, ecosystem sort of a thing? Maybe you can throw something for us to understand.
Sir, before that, a sincere apologies. We have last 5 minutes, including Q&A. Yes, sir. Just a reminder. Thank you, sir.
One thing is very clear. The products, the petrochemical products, which we are thinking of creating an environment threat. And the kind of usage what we are doing at the moment, right from a plaster to a very important parts in the costly car, we are using the plastics and petrochemical products. And now the situation is like humans cannot survive without plastics. So under this given circumstances, why there is a reason for this? Just like that, people are not fond of plastics. And our economy is growing, and people earnings are growing, and spending is growing. And people want maybe it is a consumer goods, maybe it is a car, a very good quality, and for looking it should be aesthetically good. And for that, we have to find out a material which is light in weight so that it consumes lesser petrol. We have to find out a material so that we can manufacture the goods so that it looks good. And the productivity is very high, and productivity is easy. Since there are so many advantages with these materials, people are preferring. And apart from that, this is the positive side of the usage of the petrochemicals or the usage of plastics in specific. And apart from that, we also have the concerns. What are those concerns? The waste disposal. Whatever we are disposing, first of all, we have to know, is it a waste? People have to be very clear on this. Whatever we are disposing, whatever we are feeling, they are creating a tremendous pressure on the environment. Is it a waste? And if you go into that, one of our gentlemen, just before we start this session, he made this statement, there is nothing like a waste. But we have to engage the citizens, each and every person, in the process of disposing the unused or used in a proper way. See, at the moment in India, whatever the plastics we are consuming, about more than 60% of the plastics we are recycling. About 40% we are just like throwing it, and the segregation of this litter is becoming very difficult. So it is floating on the water bodies, or it is clogging the drainages, or it is creating a threat to the earth. We are feeling that way. But if you engage the citizens, if you educate the citizens, if we make each and every person is a part of the disposal strategy, I think in the coming days we are going to reach slowly to the 100% utilization of the used material. That is going to happen. And this used material, not necessary it is to be recycled, as our Prasad sir has pointed out, and there are different ways of using it. You can build the roads. You can build so many other things at cheaper price. So we have to find out a way, we have to find out the solutions with proper disposal and with the proper utility of these plastics, so that in the coming days, we cannot oversee or we cannot envisage this kind of a threat what we are seeing now. And the second part is, at the moment, we are only consuming almost 7 to 8% of the world average. You know, the world average is about 19 kgs of the plastic consumption per head. We are doing only 3 kgs. And this, if we compare this difference, I mean, if you take this difference seriously, there is a lot of potential in the coming days to produce more and more plastics.
No, absolutely.
And this is going to happen. And not only the countries like India, where huge population is there, we are still, a lot of people are below the poverty line, but even in advanced countries, they are facing this threat. Only difference is they found the solutions. They are using the plastics much more than us. So I am very confident in the coming days, definitely better solutions will come and people will be engaged. They will realize this plastic is one of the inevitable component for everybody's life. And taking all these things into consideration, we are also coming up more and more capacity additions in the production of the plastics. Not only plastics, all other products of the petrochemicals. The way it is growing, consistently it is growing at the rate of 6%, particularly polyolefins, it is growing at the rate of 6%. If you take the overall petrochemicals, it is growing almost at the 12%. So this is going to happen, and more good things to happen in the area of petrochemicals. That is my very optimistic way of it.
No, brilliant. I think you've touched upon many things, so I'll do the summarization a little later, but since the organizers panicked a little, I just want to take a few questions if there's anyone around who's having a question for the panel members before or if you are too hungry, then I will do the summarization sort of a situation. Not too sure. Any
Satish.
questions that anyone
Satish.
wants to? Yeah.
Just to add to what Satya sir was saying, it's a very important topic he has left it for the last. I could not resist myself. Now, what we are saying is a dilemma. We are saying on one hand that we are struggling with recycling and how we are going to dispose it of. Our penetration is as low as 10 kg compared to the world average 30 kg. USA is 70 kg, China is 60 kg. Right? That is one. 2,000 million tons is what the size of petrochemical industry global. Our size is 42, right? And whatever incremental growth is coming, India is going to contribute 10% of it. Petrochemical industry is a growth driver to all the user industries like automobile, packaging, your transportation, agriculture. So how you expect to grow in this industry? How you're going to grow when you're not getting a raw material? So what I'm saying is it's a dilemma. People should know, and the industry will evolve on how to get rid of the disposal and this management which is required to be put in place. Having said that, Andhra is also a very, very high potential area. It's not too late for them. If we have to summarize, Andhra and petrochemical, there are three sides to a triangle. One is the logistics. They have got excellent logistics both from the port point of view, and the road infrastructure which is coming, whether it is through Bharatmala or whether now through the Gati Shakti and the other initiative of Government of India and the states. Second is the feed, availability of feed. You have got a refinery here, right? Only thing is what we have understand is that one JV was signed between one of the refiners and an important group which is also part of one of the sponsors to this conclave which we are holding now. So you have got the feed, and in spite of having the feed, we are not moving. Is a challenge, is a question. That is something, and the market will come. The third side of it is market, which will evolve, in some time. So I thought.
No, brilliant. I think what I'll do is I'll quickly summarize from what we've done so that for you it's easy to summarize and digest. One, This industry is required and you cannot stop this industry, so it's a great opportunity. Two, consumption patterns in the country will only increase for a reason is we have a large younger generation. We don't have like Germany, which has 65-year-old people and whose aspirations probably are midway through sort of it. Third, our children, younger generation should be time and again educated on the disposal aspects, whether at home, school, should become a part of our integral education system of creating this awareness, and not that you dump your bottle out of your car onto the road and think it's someone else's problem. You know, that's another important aspect of it. To embrace technology to see what you can do to really map, are we making progress in the whole thing, or are we just saying there are numbers, but today you have all tech guys of sort of availability to map sort of it. Someone spoke about India using a plastic a little lesser, but we need to be mindful of the fact that our population is far huge than a South Africa or an US. So if we are in an advantageous position, let's make use of it. Today even our air conditioner usage is far lower than probably a lot of the other parts of it. But then if we don't get our Environment Act together, I think then it will become a larger challenge, and we'll have to have one more conference where all of us will have to get again to address that sort of it. So I think you will have to give a big round of applause to my fellow panelists who've done a fantastic job in terms of summarizing a big subject in a small way. And I hope the organizers are happy that we are on time. And I have one task to appreciate. If the MC can probably help me in giving the mementos to my fellow panelists. So let me do that job as well. And then request. So I'll start with the lady first. So just give me a second, Kavita. So.
Yes, requesting the moderator to distribute the token of gratification on behalf of Hans India in association with WTC, World Trade Center, Visakhapatnam. Presenting to you, ladies and gentlemen, Bizzbuzz Business Conclave 2022. Huge round of applause for our eminent panelists today who ran us through the various awareness concepts required over the sector of petrochemicals. And a huge round of applause not to forget for our session chair. I think he did a brilliant job.